John Sargent with the Alarm Museum.
And I'm Ralph W. Sevinor from the Alarm Museum. Welcome. I'm actually pleased to introduce an old friend, Rick Seymour from CSI in Palm Beach, and been to your place several times. And so it's great to have you here. So maybe you can give me a little history on where you grew up and what you wanted to be when you grew up.
Well, I think that's an interesting story from the standpoint that my mom and dad were from Buffalo, New York. And when I was 9 years old, they moved to West Palm Beach, Florida.
Smart people.
And I always thank them for three things: my faith, my work ethic, and moving to Florida. So they got me out of that cold country. In fact, they were #1 in snowfall this year.
Wow.
So I didn't have to live that experience as an adult. Growing up here in South Florida was really a dream. It was a great place to enjoy the outdoors year-round, play sports year-round. Went to Catholic school throughout my high school years, and during my junior year, got tapped on the shoulder by a recruiter for the United States Military Academy at West Point. So I ended up going to West Point for a couple of years, looking down the barrel of a 7-year commitment. After 2 years there, I decided that I wasn't ready for that, and so I came home, got a job working for Florida Power and Light as a meter reader. I wanted to go back to school, and I needed a little money in my pocket. So I saved up enough money to go back to Georgia Tech, where I had turned down a scholarship to send them $2,500. And I had money in my pocket for the first time in my life. And I was living at home, so I really didn't have any overhead. And I says, do I want to send $2,500 into Georgia Tech and be a poor student? Or do I want to go buy a boat and stay working for Florida Power and Light? So I pull up in the driveway with a boat, and I walk into my mother, who still hasn't gotten over the what happened to my cadet. And I says, Mom, I'm working for Florida Power and Light. They'll send me to school at night and pay for it. I think I'm going to do that, and come on outside, I want to show you something. And so anyway, I showed her the boat, and little fireworks went off, but off I went on a 13-year career with Florida Power and Light. Started as a meter reader, got my electrical and computer engineering degree at night. They paid for it, which was just wonderful. No debt with a college education. And then I was groomed by them, everything from marketing to finance. And my last job while I was there, I was director of the budget administration and all the construction systems for an entire division. So a lot of Fortune 100 industry experience, but I got the itch to get into small business because I had a lot of friends that were in small business. And so there was a friend of mine that was a general contractor. He had a project in downtown West Palm Beach where the developer was redoing a city block, and that developer owned a radio station and a Muzak franchise. And the first half of the project was a little bit rocky. At the end of it, the bank wasn't happy, the developer wasn't happy, the architect wasn't happy.
And about what year was this?
This was in 1988. So my buddy says, the bank's telling the developer if they don't hire an owner's representative, they're not going to fund the second phase. And I really need this project, Rick. So he says, you've been talking about coming out and getting into small business. Why don't I introduce you to this guy and interview, and maybe you can sign this contract to be the owner's rep. So I did, and Irving Pearl was the developer and owner, and a great mentor of mine, taught me so much about business and about life. Very hands-on guy, and so I'm there running the project on his behalf, but he's there every day, and just how's it going, and we really got to know each other. And it wasn't long before I was in that project that he's like, I could really use someone like you in my businesses. And I said, well, Mr. Pearl, I says, that's very much a compliment, but I'm out on my own. I like this idea. And lo and behold, about a year later, as we're finishing up the project, all the thrifts and S&Ls in Florida got padlocked by the FDIC for unscrupulous lending.
Right.
And it started right here at Sunrise Savings and Loan in Palm
Did it?
Beach County.
Yeah.
Yep. So here I was at the end of that project looking to be in the construction industry, and it just dried up.
Right.
The cash flow dried up. That's what was driving that business at the time. So I went back to Mr. Pearl and I says, you mentioned once before that you might like somebody like me in your business. And so sure enough, we made a deal, and I came in and, basically to help him grow his business, develop an exit strategy, and execute an exit strategy. So the first thing we did is we sold his radio station, and then we started growing the Muzak business, and that's where I learned about recurring monthly revenue and the power of recurring monthly revenue. And he said, Rick, he says, you always want to have a business that you have a lot of people sending you a little bit as opposed to one person sending you a lot.
Smart man.
And yes, he was. And so it took me a while, because I'm not the sharpest tool in the shed, to figure that out. But being with him through the 90s, we grew that business. And I ended up earning an equity partnership in the business, a minority share, and we sold that business in 2000, and it's crazy, a 72-time multiple.
Wow.
The parent company, Muzak is a franchise, and the parent company was very, very frustrated with the franchise agreement that was in place. It was very much skewed towards the franchisees instead of the franchisor. And so, the dot-com buzz was going on, and the stock market was going crazy. And so their idea is let us buy back all these franchises, and then we'll take it public, and then we'll do this and we'll do that. Well, there was a couple of people that said, if they're trying to buy all this stuff up, we should grab as much as we can, because we're going to be the last. We're going to be the last ones to the assemblage. Mm-hmm. So we got bought by this group that came from the cable industry, and but they were in a bidding war, and they bid this thing up to 72 times.
Amazing.
It was absolutely crazy. And then, of course, I had a contract to run it. I was under contract to run it for 3 years for them, and I had to pay that debt service.
Wow.
So I got it on the back end as to
You
what
felt
it's like.
good initially.
Yeah,
Then
it felt real good until that monthly
Right.
nut came along with all that
Right.
debt. So I learned about recurring revenue. A buddy of mine who was in the Muzak business, he was actually the national sales manager, was looking to, while I was still at Muzak, he was looking to buy a fire alarm business up in Orlando, Florida. And he asked me to help him do diligence, just as another set of eyes on the deal. And I started saying, wow, this is the same thing. It's monthly subscription, service, devices hanging on the end of a wire. People need it, for reasons. So I was under contract to continue to run the Muzak business, but not quite happy with the new owners and the way that they were, heading in their direction. And so I started looking for another recurring service model. And being involved in our community for many, many years, besides just work, I had met Vance Carpenter through many civic, charity events. He was always somebody, and still is always somebody, that has given back to the community. So we got to know each other. And in fact, a bank at one time was courting our business and courting Vance's business. And they put together a little luncheon for about 10 prospects that they wanted to, earn business for. It was Barnett Bank. And they put out this big spread for us in their boardroom, and it says, the 10 movers and shakers of West Palm Beach. And it had a little, agenda and all that stuff. And for some reason, I just kind of had that in a file in my files. And here it is, all of a sudden, I go to a meeting one day, and I learned that the guy that was the general manager running the security business for Vance quit and left. So I call up Vance, and I says, hey, Vance, I says, what are you going to do with the security business now that Jay's gone? And he says, you want to come work for me? I says, no, I want to buy it. And he looked at me, and I says, I want to buy the business. So he didn't want to sell it, and it took us about 2 years. And finally, we put a partnership together. And that was in 2005. And we had just shy of about $25,000 in recurring revenue. But it wasn't Vance's passion. He always had that as a side business. He was an electrician.
What kind of customer base did you have? Residential, commercial, or half and half?
At that time, it was almost all luxury residential. Vance Carpenter's brand started on the island of Palm Beach as an electrician in the early 1980s. And he became a journeyman. He was working for somebody, and because he was, and that's one thing, is that when you're dealing with luxury residential customers, trustworthiness is absolutely essential. Okay, integrity, because you're doing things there when people aren't looking. I mean, they're not always in these estates, and there's plenty of opportunities for people that don't have the right constitution to make mistakes and make bad decisions. But Vance isn't one of those people. So anyway, he was building a reputation, and finally one day he went to a Southern Belle auction of their used vans and bought a van, put his name on the side of it, and opened up in the spare bedroom of his home, and built his business from the ground up. Okay, something that I admire in anybody, because I have never done that. I have always come into a business and added value, but I've never built a business ground up. So he built the business ground up, and as the story goes, one day he was doing some electrical work for Mrs. Fisher of Fisher Body.
Sure.
So Mrs. Fisher comes up to him and a helper that he had. He was still small at that time, and Mrs. Fisher says, I'd like to get a security system in here. And she goes, do you do that? And Vance kind of was about to be honest like he is and say no, and the helper goes, we can do it. So he goes, well, we can give it a try. And so anyway, that's how he got into the security business.
And what year was that?
That was probably in the mid to late 80s, because he started in 1982 on his own with Carpenter Electric. So anyway, the business grew, and then all of a sudden he started taking on more and more accounts. And in 92, he basically set up Carpenter Security and Communications for liability purposes, etc., because there are two distinct businesses, and kept Carpenter Electric separate. So anyway, because it wasn't a passion of his, there was no commercial business. It was just his passion was taking care of those luxury residential properties out on the island of Palm Beach, and we picked up a lot of that business. So when I came in, Muzak was all commercial, no residential.
Yeah.
So my background was, calling B2B, and I said, well, there's a great opportunity. I can now, all these customers that I have relationships with, bring them in, etc. And I thought it was going to be easy, okay? But I'll never forget this one customer, God bless him, he just passed recently, J.D. Pietro. He was the president of Boca West Country Club. It's the largest country club in the United States. And he was one of the premier professionals in that industry, constantly being evaluated. And we did all of his music work and all of his sound. And so go in there, get the business, knock on the door. Hey, Jay, we're in the security business now. He goes, Rick, he goes, just like I wouldn't call anybody but you for music and sound. He says, I got a guy for security. It was like, well, my due diligence wasn't so due, was it? So I learned that lesson. But because of relationships, and we all know that the first thing that somebody has to do is know and trust you before they're going to do business with you. Because of that relationship, I said, all right, I'll stand back. And over time, started taking on all that country club business for their fire, for their access control, for their intrusion, surveillance, and started building the commercial business along with the luxury residential business. And so today, we're just north of about $112,000 a month.
Fantastic.
So we've had great organic compounded growth. We grow not by a giveaway and then have to earn it back over time. All of our systems are sold outright. We earn income on our system installations. We got some great coaching. This industry is really special. Well, you two gentlemen are just an example of how special this industry is. Well, we became Honeywell security dealers when they were trying to figure out how to expand beyond their first alert program for residential. They came up with the commercial security systems dealer, and we immediately signed up for that. It was, I think we became a dealer in 2006, so very shortly after we bought into the partnership. And you know, it was the folks in that industry and that Honeywell provided that, you know, you could call them up and, you know, speak candidly about your business and ask questions, because I had so much to learn, because I knew nothing about the security industry. So you know, one of the things that we couldn't figure out is, how do we get our sales professionals to sell service agreements on top of the equipment that we sell, and not just do a one-time equipment sale. And I'm sure you guys have met Wayne Bro in the industry, but, you know, Wayne sat down with me, he goes, well, Rick, he says, you're really not paying them to sell those things. I says, sure I am. He says, well, he says, let's just look at it this way. He says, you can set up your commission plan to say, I'm going to pay you twice the commission on that equipment sale if you have a service agreement with it. Or you can say it another way, which I don't recommend, is I'm going to pay you half the commission if you don't have a service agreement on it. And so we made that leap of changing our comp plan, that basically the commission for the equipment sale was cut in half if there wasn't a service agreement with it. And you know, it was just amazing, because it went from optional or sometimes being presented to being always presented.
It's amazing how you can find that.
So, but those are the things that I think that, you know, because of the way the industry is set up, there's, even though Honeywell is a large corporation, guys like Wayne Bro came up just like we, you know, we had our own businesses, and, you know, we're entrepreneurial, and when we're not sitting in each other's backyard, we can open the kimono and share ideas, you know, that you know, it's not going to have any consequence on us, and it's really about, that's how you build those relationships, and it raises the professionalism of the industry overall.
No question.
So I mean, I know when you came down, I think about, you know, when you invited me to come in to do this, Ralph, it was really funny, because I says, wow, I says, when did I first meet Ralph? I says, it was around 2015, and Ralph says, hey, you know, I'm down here, I got a house here, you know, let me take you to lunch. So Ralph and I go to lunch, and we're talking about boating and fishing and, you know, having a good old time. And he goes, hey, how would you like me to, you know, take a look at your business and see what?
Did you think I was looking to open up an operation in Florida?
And so I'm sitting there going, hey, he's in Massachusetts, he's fat and happy, he's not going to mess with me down here, right? So anyway, Ralph comes, and I share the numbers with him. Ralph comes back, and I still have in my top drawer the report. I was going to bring it to you.
I did a report.
Yes, you did. Really? Yes, you did. And you know, you talk about, and I pulled the report out because I knew I was going to see Ralph today, and I look at it, and I just shook my head, because some of the questions that you said you might ask me is, what are some of the mistakes you made in the industry? And the mistake I made was I didn't take serious heed to your comment that was handwritten on the report that said, buy out the partners now before it gets too expensive to buy them. And it's too expensive to buy them.
Yeah.
So you know, and that's, and I'm not being greedy. I mean, I'm still grateful that I've got great partners, but the business has grown beyond my ability, you know, to buy them out. And you gave me the opportunity, Ralph. I missed it. I apologize for that.
And by the way, I learned a lot too. John and I, as a matter of fact, we visited Bay Alarm in December. And there's so many things that you pick up, you know, and people, it's almost like a family, and you get to ask questions, and so I take a lot of those ideas back. You know, there's an expression, and it says if you take one idea, it's stealing. If you take multiple, it's research, right? So I'm a believer in research.
Yeah.
So well, that's great. That's great.
So then, let's see, we were whereabouts 2:15 to between then and now. Let's get to now.
Okay.
Okay. So your company now, you know, how are you doing? What's your competition like?
You know, it's interesting. The Florida is just such a unique place.
It really is. And pro-business.
And very pro-business. We are the freest state in the United States. We're very, very blessed with the leadership, not only at the state level, but Palm Beach County has some incredible local leadership. Very, very business friendly. I don't know if you guys know it or not, but they have now coined downtown West Palm Beach as Wall Street South.
No.
That is how significant the flow of all the finance, the insurance companies. Wall Street is just migrating to Palm Beach County and other areas in Florida, but Palm Beach County has become the destination.
That's great to hear.
What was interesting about it is that the president of our business development board, Kelly Smallridge, she came up with a concept a few years ago that so many of these CEOs and chairmen of these Wall Street businesses all had homes either on Palm Beach Island or in the gated communities.
Right.
And so she came up with a program called Behind the Gates. And she says, I want to reach out to those people behind the gates, and I want to convince them that it makes sense, tax-wise, climate-wise, education-wise, quality of life-wise, to bring your corporate executives to Palm Beach, okay? Keep your manufacturing or any of your processing wherever it's set up, don't go through that expense, but bring your executives here. And that's what she has done, and it is just amazing. Not only that, but now the manufacturing is coming, everything else is coming. So you know, there's so much to eat, is what I'm saying, that the competition is really a non-issue. I mean, yes, it's there, but you know, if there's so much out there that if you're a great service provider, you know, if you answer the telephone instead of having an answering machine, little simple things, okay, that really don't cost that much, because what really costs is when you have that answering machine and somebody gets frustrated pushing 3 and 4 and 5 and they just stop paying you. That's what cost you.
Yeah.
And so we really, you know, we really haven't seen it with, you know, the DIY. I think that there is just a unique influx of affluent people that live here in Palm Beach County, that security is more important to them than other places, you know, and there's just more of them. So we just, one of my sales pros this week, I mean, we're still celebrating. This is the honest to God truth. He had a proposal. This was a historic landmark. It was by a CEO of a huge retail company. Everybody knows their name. And our bid was $150,000 for the security system. Our competitor was at $75,000, one half. And we closed the deal at $150,000. So it's a matter of, you know, that integrity that's so important, that your reputation is there, and service. And you know, we all make mistakes, but it's how, you know, I always say we don't react to mistakes, we respond. We respond to mistakes. That's the difference. You know, reacting is, it's not my fault or who did it or whatever the case may be, but ours is a response. Hey, it happened, let us address it, we're going to, I always say, please give me the opportunity
Sure.
to make this right for you.
Yeah. So at some point, that's nice to hear about the competition, because in some crowded cities, it's not that way at all. But you also then got interested in the alarm associations, and I think back to the 70s, that's when I got involved, because I didn't know about the alarm business, and I wanted to learn what everybody else is doing, and that was the friendly place to go. So when did you get involved with the association?
I got involved immediately. Irving Pearl.
So you saw,
Irving Pearl taught me that.
I was going to say you saw value in that.
Yeah, absolutely.
And by the way, I think congratulations are in order, right, for ESA?
Yeah, I'm now a national director.
That's great, congratulations.
No, thank you. It's an honor, it really is. Immediately, I mean, that's, I was on the board of the International Planned Music Association, which is the trade association for all the music franchisees. And, that was just something that, when I went to work on Irving's team, Rick, you need to get involved. This is how you learn. This is how you,
Right.
grow. This is how you can pick up the phone and call somebody and say, hey, what can we do about this? And so I got involved right away. I don't know, I guess it was maybe, my involvement in the Alarm Association of Florida was I really just paid dues.
Mm-hmm.
I had a couple of guys that were, I've got two guys that are over 25 years with the company, been there longer than me, and they were the ones that went to the Alarm Association meetings, and I didn't. A couple of them, but I wasn't active. And but then, I guess it was about 8 years ago, I get a call and they say, hey, listen, we're looking to open a chapter in the state of Florida for the Electronic Security Association. Would you be willing to serve in a leadership role? And I said, yes, I'll serve on the board. And so I did. I think there was 2 presidents before me, and then I became president of the ESA Florida. And it was at that time, you talk about competition, I was always perplexed by, why are we trying to create another trade association in the state of Florida when we have a trade association in the state of Florida that is established, high membership, and so it was all politics, and I was just not interested in playing the politic game with it. I wanted to do what was best for the industry. So I said, listen, I will serve as president, okay, but my #1 goal as president is to bring these 2 organizations into one. And so what happened is before I could successfully do that, and there were meaningful discussions to do that at both executive levels of both organizations, and then ESA decided to do away with the charter chapters, and it kind of just killed that. So that was when I said, well, you know what? Now I need to get involved with the remaining organization, but I believe in the national organization, and I stayed on board there. I'm a very, very active member in both.
And they serve 2 distinct roles.
No doubt. What the real role that, for me personally, how I see it as the advantage, is that picking up the phone and talking to a non-competitive person.
Right.
I can call you, Rob.
Right.
I can call you, John, and I know that you're in another part of the country.
Right.
That I'm not going to be at risk of opening up the kimono, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that is invaluable. And going back to your question about competition, you know what the biggest competition is? I didn't think that question through. Biggest competition we have right now is for quality people coming into our industry.
And you've done a wonderful job with that.
We're not done, but it is a passion and it is a mission that we're on. But forever, when you talk to anybody, what's your biggest problem? Quality people. And there was just not a feeder system And this I learned from the electrical industry. When Vance asked me to take over running the electrical business for him in 2009, all of a sudden there's an apprenticeship program and all this formal development that's in that trade that is totally void of our trade. And I says, there's got to be a way to get this going to where there's a progression, and we're just not hiring each other's bad habits, because that's what we're doing. So I learned that there was a feeder system for electrical, and I got involved. It was at the state college level, and I was on their business advisory board. And one day the college said, we're thinking about adding another program. We got some funding. They go, what do you think about solar? I says, no. I says, we need a low voltage technician program. So about 8 years ago, we launched at Palm Beach State College a low voltage technician program.
And it's what type of a degree?
It's non-degree. It's a certificate.
Okay.
It's a certificate program. It's 750 hours. The curriculum is provided by NCCER, which is a national training and accreditation program, and it has all the modules in it that we need in our industry.
It'll take you from the basics of Ohm's law,
absolutely,
right up to field work.
They start out with job safety, hand tools. All the things that they need to know how to operate safely in and around construction or an existing structure, building materials, the difference between metal studs and wood studs, etc. And then they go into the fundamentals of the theory behind electricity, and our circuitry. And then they get into the actual applications of intrusion, fire, access control, video surveillance, communication systems, networking. It's really a broad-based program, and the way that we were able to sell it to get the college to be convinced that this would be a program that would be worthwhile is they said, we get measured by how many students get jobs as a result of completing this program. So I call up Bob Neely of the Alarm Association of Florida,
who just retired.
Yep.
Right.
And I says, Bob, I says, listen, I says, I'm trying to rally the troops. Can you come to a meeting? And I called some of the key, dealers that were down here in South Florida, and I had Honeywell, Steve Chernoff. I says, listen, I says, we got a meeting at the State College, and we need to let these people know that if they produce trained technicians, we're going to hire them. Well, that worked. Bob Neely threw in, not only did we all contribute scholarships, I actually paid for the instructor for a half a year because he was a former employee of mine and he wanted to transition into that role to be the instructor. And then Bob said that the Alarm Association voted, and all the students get FASA-BASA certified before they come out of the class. So, they're ready to get hired. And I'm really proud to say that all 8 graduating classes had 100% hired.
Amazing.
This past year, we had about 20 contractors show up to hire 12. The year before, we had 45 contractors show up to hire about 15. So that's the demand. So the goal now, I chair the Workforce Development Committee for the Alarm Association of Florida. And our goal for the rest of this year is to stand up a low voltage technician program in each of the major markets in Florida. So we already started. Miami-Dade has committed to doing it at their Homestead campus. We have a little issue. We can't find an instructor, but we'll figure that one out. We found out that Orange County, through the public school system, all right, they have what they call Orange Tech. And CEDIA actually stood up a program with them a couple of years ago. And so now we're talking with them, and I have the vice president of CEDIA nationally. He has joined AAF's Workforce Development Committee as a committee member, and we're going to take that program that they started for the home automation and theater business and just add fire and stronger intrusion and things like that, and beef up that program so it serves both. Our past president, Richard Moyer, up in Jacksonville, he got Jacksonville, Florida State University, Jacksonville College. They have committed, they just hired the instructor, and they're going to stand up the program in fall of this year. We're working on Tampa. There's something going on there that we think we can make work, and we're trying to figure out what to do in Fort Myers. So we should have, 5 or 6 programs producing, even if it's 10 a year, it's 60 more. And, but the challenge is not saying we're going to hire them. The challenge is getting the students into the class.
Yeah.
And it's brutal. I mean, what I have to do, I go out and talk to high schools all the time, and I call up, hi, I'm Rick Seymour, member of Trade Association. I come in and talk to kids about a career in the trades. They give you the kids that they want to get rid of.
Oh, wow.
And I go, no. I want your honors math class. I want your honors English class. I says, I want to talk to those kids. I says, because this is a career path that is unlimited as to what can be done. And I says, there's multi-millionaires that this industry creates.
Absolutely.
And these kids need to know about it. They need to understand it. And so it's a real challenge. NCCER, the accreditation and training company, if you go to their website, they did a survey pre-COVID, and they asked parents, would you recommend your kids to go into the trades? 80% of them said no.
No. That's changing though.
Slow.
That's changing.
So what I'm excited about is being able to be a part of a trade organization that has reach, that has influence, that and folks like you. I mean, we're sitting right now in the world headquarters of the largest security company in the world doing this interview, and my mind's just in the back of my head saying, I got to get ADT involved in this. What if ADT, who does the greatest job marketing the value of what our industry produces for
Before you leave, we'll make sure we get a contact card.
And what if they took one of those great commercials that they show how our services work and how great they are keeping people, safe and convenient at home, if they just talked about how cool a career at ADT would be, and show that career path of come in as a technician and be a millionaire one day. I think there's things that we can do if we think outside the box, that this can really get traction. And so, and that's the future of our business. It's the people. All this technology is going to change. It's going to come. We're going to figure out how to do things that are with it that are cool that we never do. But without the people, we're just going to struggle and stumble. And
I don't think you're the first person out of all of our interviews that mentioned that, and I can't think of ever seeing a commercial. How about you up north? For someone to get into this industry?
We've created some. The ESA's done a nice job of creating videos.
Yeah.
And we've used some of those videos, but it's not mainstream.
Mm-hmm. And we got to, there's a way to, we got to influence the kids when they're young enough, the parents, and the public school system.
And to understand there is a career there.
Yes, absolutely. And selfishly, we want to talk about our trade, but I'm talking about all trades in general. okay,
Mhm.
are not getting the shot
Right.
that is necessary for this country. You know, if we want to take back our ability to produce and grow in any manner as a nation and for security purposes, you know, we've got to have a workforce that's technical. And it's not just computer science. It is, things have to be made. I mean, I think the pandemic showed us that, how important it is that when you realize that you've outsourced so much of what keeps you alive and well to theoretically an enemy, you know, you can't do that at any cost.
Yeah, interesting. Well, what about, what's your thoughts on the future from here? Where do you see the industry? I mean, we can talk about company-wise or industry-wise, and you're at both levels.
Yeah, I mean, it's, I guess if we all had crystal balls, we'd be doing all right, right? But it's really hard to tell. It's going to change. It's going to change. There is just, if you think about just how, I remember coming in 2005, the big resistance was, oh, those cellular communicators, they're not reliable. You know, we need the twisted pair in the phone line. You know, that was, and we had to fight that with our technicians and our salespeople that, you know, what do you mean primary VSL? You know, what about when it goes out? Now, you know, there is no twisted pair, you know, I mean, so that's how things change, that there's always going to be that resistance. But if you look at what the technology is evolving to with artificial intelligence and, you know, really, really smart detection devices, you know, not just a door contact or not just a motion detector. I mean, you know, being able to take a scene that can be seen by a camera and analyze it for specifics, and it's going to become affordable enough that it's going to replace the door contacts and the things. I mean, and it's being used today. It's just a little bit expensive because it's niche. But as it becomes more and more and mass produced,
Mainstream.
and mainstream it, you know, it's going to evolve. And you know, there's always going to be bad people in the world, unfortunately. And so, you know, there's always going to be a reason to protect people and assets.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just a matter of adapting to it, and knowing that change is constant. It creates problems, but it also creates opportunities. And if you're lucky enough to always look for the opportunity, you're gonna do okay. And if you get mired down and, you know, this is wrong and that is wrong, you know, you can't ignore it, but you don't make that your mantra.
Yeah.
So a couple of takeaways is know the pulse of the customer, take care of the customer.
Absolutely.
Truly take care of
Yep.
them. Right. Keep up with technology.
Yep.
Have a good work ethic and integrity.
Yep.
Anything else you can think of to really help us?
Well, you got to be willing to give back, you know, not only to the industry through the trade organizations, but to your community. I mean, we don't advertise on TV, we don't advertise on the radio.
Strictly word of mouth or outreach.
Almost. I mean, we got a website like everybody does, and we're not really super driven on the the marketing via the social media. We have a presence, and it's important, and I don't diminish it, but that's not how we get our business. I mean, we get our business by being strong supporters of law enforcement and firefighters. I mean, you don't have a business without them. So if you miss that, then you're really missing a key thing, because when that alarm goes off, it all depends on how law enforcement and the first responders and firefighters respond. And if they don't respond, then you don't have a business.
So collaboration with your partners, AHJ.
Yeah, absolutely. So that public-private partnership is very, very important. Be involved. You know, you can't You can't do everything, but make sure you have somebody that represents your company going to those AHJ meetings, the crime prevention officer meetings. I personally I'm the chairman of the Palm Beach County Sheriff's Foundation. We raise money for them. We have a very active member in our company on ASIS, the American Society of Industrial Security. Every year, sans COVID, but we're back again this year. We're one of the founding sponsors of this. We bring in over 700 law enforcement officers from the Treasure Coast down to Palm Beach to PGA Resort. Feed them lunch, recognize them for outstanding service as nominated by their superiors, and it's just unbelievable.
Isn't that amazing?
And but see, those are the things that we know are important, and we do them not only because it makes good business sense, but it's what you do as a member of the community.
Right.
I mean, come on, you want to be in a safe
the right-
place to live.
it's the right thing to do.
thing to do. Yeah. Well, so that's very, very important is giving back, and and we encourage our employees to do it. We try to support as many of their charity needs when they come up.
That's
You
right.
always get the hey,
Sure.
the church is doing this, can we do that? And it's just giving back.
Yeah.
Giving back.
Yeah.
Amazing. Well, thanks so much. Any final thoughts, John? Any questions you may have?
No, you covered a great deal.
This is
Great
really
stuff.
eye-opening, and it's fundamentals. It's common sense, but so many people don't do it,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yep.
And it just fascinating.
Maybe they just don't think. I don't know.
Well, you can get distracted.
Yeah.
It's easy to get distracted,
Right.
and you can only do so many things. I mean, I only try to accomplish 3 things a day.
Yes.
I mean, really, that's someone.
Yeah.
I learned that from one of the
Why
conferences.
3? Because by the way, I believe in 3 also, but
Because I went to
the power of 3.
I went to a ESA leadership training in Savannah, and they had a guest speaker there that said, "You're killing yourself if you don't just say, I'm going to do these 3
Right.
important things.
Right.
And if you do those 3, you're going to feel accomplished. Don't ignore everything else. Still have a list of what you got to do, but
Right.
just do
Your
3.
focus is on 3.
Just do 3.
That's
So I mean, I said, okay, I'm going to start doing that, because I never really thought about just doing 3, but it works.
that's amazing.
All
Well,
right.
thanks for all your contributions in the industry and the business. Sounds
Yeah.
like it's doing fantastic.
It is. It's doing great.
That's excellent.
Thank you, gentlemen, for this opportunity.
All right.
Thank you.
Great. Thanks.